Hi, Sarah.
Hi, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm all right also. Yes, I tried my best to find somebody to fill in for me, but I'm glad
That's
there's a
all.
forum.
Yeah, that's all you could do. Yeah, I mean, but I appreciate knowing that too, because if there isn't a quorum, I would be the one that has to deal with that. So I appreciate you texting me to let me know.
Yeah, I
But
just wanted to keep you in the loop and I
yeah,
reached out to everybody else and, you know,
yeah.
but I
Sometimes it just
realized
doesn't.
actually I don't have contact information other than, for like Bob Dennison or, well, for Drew, other than their Ward 9, other than their ward addresses, but they don't use their phone numbers. Bob Dennison, I didn't have a phone number, a city phone number for him. That wasn't connected. I
I,
don't
I could
think.
get I could get that to you. It should be on the website. I don't know if Elise has made that change yet. Actually,
Okay,
probably
because
it's the same phone number that was up there for Tony. So I
Hello,
could.
I can't hear anybody.
you can't. We can hear each other. Andrea and I can.
Yeah, we're talking
Oh, I'm
away.
in there
Can
as
you hear each
Barbara Hill,
other?
but I have to change the,
Shake your head up and down if you can hear each other.
We could hear each other.
All right, I'm going to contact IT.
so we can't hear the meeting. We can just hear each other. And this says
Well,
Barbara
Elisa
Hill, which
is
I have to
not.
change.
Sorry, Elisa's not at City Hall. She's probably someplace
Oh, got it.
remote. Yeah,
Got
she
it.
usually doesn't. Yeah, she usually joins remotely. So I don't. First of all, we are being recorded, just so you
Okay,
know.
yes,
Not that.
and I can hear you now.
Oh, great. All right. Yeah, so I'm hoping somebody in the conference room, because I'm usually the one that presses the button. So hopefully they'll get that set up.
Yes. hopefully.
Okay, I see other people coming in.
Yeah, Bob's joining us remotely. Hi, Bob.
There's Bob. Hi, Bob. Bob, you're muted. Turn up your sound.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm good. Now I'm good.
You're good.
Yes, you
I
are.
hear you.
Hi, Bob.
Yeah.
Hi. Nobody's there. Everybody's in cars or home or wherever.
Yeah.
Somebody has to be there.
Hopefully they'll figure it out. I told Rita that I was going to be joining remotely, so hopefully they'll figure out how to press the button.
Okay.
Well, right now, only the remote people are in the meeting. We are being
Okay.
recorded, but that's okay. I'm sure they'll figure out how to get the live people in.
Okay.
Now
And
that we're
just
not
so
live.
just so you know, I'm not actually the one driving the car right now.
That's good. That's good.
Figured you might assume that, but just for the record, I have my seatbelt on. I'm safe. I'm not doing anything illegal.
All right. I was a terrible texter doing my email when I used to commute to Albany. It's an hour ride, you know it.
Oh, I
You know?
know.
Email was very tempting, but I stopped.
Yeah.
Good for you. That's why you're still alive today.
People were very angry about my doing that, but what are you going to do?
Yeah. So Bob,
Right.
yes, so I need to get contact information for other people so I can reach out to people if I need a sub, because I had to do that and my sub had canceled and I have limited access to other people's information, but offline,
Right. We all
maybe
do
on
that.
the
Yeah.
website. But I will tell you that my phone number on the website is correct.
Okay, I think mine is as well. My city phone is correct, but my city phone is in Kingston and I'm in Alexandria, Virginia. So that's kind of a problem.
Okay, good to know. I see real people there. Look at that.
Right.
Yeah, people.
Oh, look at that. There we
go.
Oops.
Hey, Rita?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah,
hear
it's hard
you.
to see because I'm on my phone, obviously. Do you have a
Uh-huh.
quorum?
We do, so we're gonna go ahead and start.
Are you missing somebody?
Naeem is not here.
Oh, hi. I don't know if somebody, 'cause I'm
I'm
on
just-
my phone, but if somebody could text her, that would be helpful.
I'm doing that now.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. I'll wait about maybe 3 or 4 more minutes. If she's not here, we have a quorum, so we can go ahead and start.
All right.
Be 2 minutes. See if
The
she
first
was,
item won't need a vote, by the way.
okay.
Just-
Is he just talking to us tonight?
I'll be addressing it.
Okay. All right, 2 minutes.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, so that's when you. Okay, hi Sarah, can you hear me? We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
We certainly can.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. It's Bob Dennison.
Bob Dennison is there too.
And so am I.
And there's Andrea. Okay, welcome, good evening, everybody. We're going to open up our Laws and Rules Committee meeting, 6:40 p.m. In attendance from the Laws and Rules Committee is Alderman Scott Childress, Frankel, myself, Worthington, Chair of Laws and Rules Committee, President is joining us virtually, Andrea Schauf. We also have Alderwoman Patsy and Alderman Dennison virtual. I don't know if there's anyone else joining us virtually. If not, okay, so we have members from our union and non-union tonight. We did invite one speaker tonight, but we're gonna just go down the agenda items, okay? Shouldn't be too long. All right, and then we'll proceed. So the first item on our agenda is the Jarvis Street. Andrea, you're standing in for Dan Baker?
Yeah, I told Dan there was no need for him to come tonight because the next process, a part of the process is for the Laws and Rules Committee to host a public hearing. You guys, the committee can't make a decision until the hearing is held, and the Dan Baker's assessment had to be delivered to you, which it now has. And then I will call one giving it at least 10 days notice. So I think our best practice is for me to send you an email with dates because it's a statutory public hearing. That means we need a quorum. We need at least 3 members of the committee to be there. So if it's okay with you guys, I'll send an email with some options. And if you could email me tomorrow what works best. Does that sound like a good plan?
Yep. That
All right,
it?
so I'll send it out late. I'll send out the email late tonight because I have a lot of homework. But if you could check your email tomorrow and get back to me so that I could get that on the schedule.
Okay, great.
And Dan's assessment is there, so you could take a look at it too.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, be careful, keep your eyes on the road.
I'm not actually driving, just for the record. I am in the car.
Okay.
I'm not driving, but thank you.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Good.
All right, so was that all that you had, Andrea?
For that item, yes.
Okay, good. All right. Moving along, item number 2, Coalition Against Bigger Trucks, and Alderwoman Patsy is going to talk to us about that.
Yeah, I was approached shortly after I was appointed by a gentleman from the coalition against bigger trucks. And he handed me a packet of information and I did email it around to the committee members. And essentially what he is asking for, or what this organization is asking for, is letters of support to US Congress people because there is a bill in front of the House that is moving forward that would allow for much bigger trucks, much heavier trucks to be driving on highways and other roads that come into our communities. And they feel that this will be very detrimental to roadways. And I sent along a packet. I think the only roadway in Kingston that actually would be affected by this, or particularly affected by it, is local bridges. And there is a bridge that runs at the end of Lucas Avenue, the I-87, Route I-87 sort of intersection there. There's a bridge that could be damaged by these bigger trucks, but these trucks are over 90,000 pounds that they're trying to increase the scope, which means that they can carry more material in a truck. Rather than having 2 or 3 trucks, they can combine them into 1 or 2 attached trucks. So they're heavier. The city of Saugerties police chief has already submitted a letter. So he sent me some sample letters of support that essentially ask that essentially ask our Congress people to consider this particular proposal. And I don't really think it requires that much of us. I did suggest that he approach the mayor's office also. Since I'm still fairly new here and I'm trying to figure out who writes letters like this, letters of support. So I don't know if he actually approached the mayor's office, but again, this might be something that we need to bring to the highway department or DPW just to see if this would pose a problem. I do remember that when I lived in Beacon, in that community, we had some heavy trucks that were coming in on certain roads and had really sort of destroyed some of the roads. So we had to create or to change the truck route around the city because they were driving on roads that really couldn't support heavy weights. So I don't know enough about Kingston, I'll be honest here, to say whether or not this would pose damage to Kingston roads, but certainly apparently the Lucas Avenue Bridge is 69 years old and in fair condition. There are other bridges in Ulster County and other New York State counties that are much older and in poor condition. So as far as it impacting Kingston, as a city, I don't know if it would have that great an impact. But again, we're thinking about, Ulster County and New York State. So this is what I know, which is somewhat limited. But there was a packet of information that came around with sort of pictures of these trucks and the kind of damage that they can do, because roadways were not made to support this kind of weight, is basically the issue. So that's the impact that it has when trucks get bigger and heavier. So there we are. Are there questions, discussions? I think it could be a useful thing, but as I said, I don't know what the protocol is. So I welcome other opinions from the table.
Well, it looks like they sent a draft of a letter to us.
Yes, they did. They sent drafts. They sent a copy of what Saugerties had sent, and they also sent drafts to be sent to our various representatives in Congress.
Okay.
Andrea, I think you wanted to say something? I'll be quiet now.
But somebody there, it's hard for me to see. Rita, who do you want to speak first?
You had your hand up first.
I did. Okay. I have a couple of questions, I guess, Sarah. I don't know if you know the answer. I don't have my notes with me from what you sent. First of all, the bridge you're talking about, I don't think is in the city of Kingston, just so you know. I think that's town of Ulster.
Okay, great.
Finished.
So, I mean, we don't really have, that doesn't, do we have trucks of this size currently operating in the city of Kingston?
I don't know.
I didn't see any pictures. Sarah, you said there were pictures of the trucks that you were talking about. I didn't see any of those in our packet.
I don't think they made it into the packet. I sent it around to committee members.
Okay.
But I don't think these trucks are allowed on roadways yet. That's why we probably wouldn't see them, because this is a national proposal that is something that's in the House that would change the weight limits for trucks across the country. And
to make it bigger, and then so we're high.
They're getting bigger and bigger. And then what this group is trying to do is trying to get various states to say, no, we don't really want these trucks to enter into our state or in our community. That's really the gist of it. So I'm not sure what the next step is as far as figuring out whether we really want these huge trucks coming into our
Yeah, I
country.
was just trying to think of any consequences that would happen if we were to ban it. But if there are trucks that aren't currently here, the only thing that I could see is if we're the only municipality that bans it, then, but we can't even ban it. We're just asking,
No.
all you're asking is for.
Just for a letter of
It's just
support.
a letter of support, because we have no control over this. It's not anything we can ban. It's national legislation. So
Right, and
essentially
there's
what we're
things
doing is
they don't
asking.
exist. Got it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just to clarify, I mean, for a letter, if the committee wants to send out a letter, they could write a resolution tonight and adopt one of those letters to just change the wording to the city of Kingston. If that's what the committee wants to do. So Sarah, since you said you weren't sure what to do with that,
Okay,
you could do that.
Yeah, honestly, I have not read the letter yet. I'd like to read it and, look over everything in the packet.
I don't think this is not a huge, or this is not an urgent issue. It will become more urgent over time. But right now, I think there's no reason to rush and do anything without gathering further information. And if people have questions, you can let me know and I can contact the person who provided me with the information and we'll see what happens.
Okay, before we leave this, you got a question?
It's more of a comment. Very quickly, it seems to me that there is a sustainability related and energy efficiency argument in favor of having bigger trucks. That does it because one big truck will probably consumes less energy and gas than three smaller ones. So this is not to say that I'm for having bigger trucks. It is to say that I think this requires some deliberation before we just sign off on something where we really don't understand the pros and cons of the whole situation.
Okay, and thank you for bringing up that question. I can actually pose that to the person who contacted me and ask if he has any information about that. So thank you for
I
that.
mean, it might not be the best source of information since they're very clear on their position. I might want to do
Aha,
something.
good point.
Okay, was there anything else?
If I could just, not to stick my 2 cents in, but to me, the big issue becomes highway safety more than infrastructure damage. You know, a 90,000 pound truck, you know, at 70 miles an hour or 60 miles an hour is really not a great idea. It won't affect this. I don't expect it to affect the infrastructure in Kingston much, but there is an overall highway safety issue that they should consider when they change this legislation. It's really not a place, you know, we really don't have a dog in that fight, but just for interest's sake, thanks.
Thank you.
Good, right?
Good.
Okay, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you all.
Okay, so those were the items on new business. Now we move to old business. And this is resolution 141, repealing of resolution 141. And just so you all know that we have discussed this at length. We want to make the best decisions for all parties involved. And whether there'll be a vote tonight or not, I don't know. However, we will discuss it, and we have some changes that we want to discuss. And prior to us doing that, though, I'm going to ask Val to come up. Val asked if she could speak tonight, and so you may come to the table.
Yeah, please, Peter. Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. And if you wanna, for the people that aren't here,
We put them in the box.
okay, that'd be great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. And also, just in case, I mean, I know you guys all, you know, but just in case you want to. Okay, so thank you again for having me. Again, I'm Val Dwyer. I don't know if we've ever met. Nice to meet you. I'm a City of Kingston resident and I'm a business owner, president of Arrow Construction. And I'm very concerned with the resolution that was passed last year. You know, obviously as a business owner, but also as a taxpayer. And so last week you heard from some of the employees at Arrow Construction and how this impacts them. And that's certainly a piece of it. But really the problem is a lot bigger than Arrow Construction. So tonight I'm going to kind of talk about it more from a taxpayer standpoint. And because it's not just our company that it affects, it honestly impacts the competitive bidding process altogether. So what I did, one of the things I said when I got up the other night is how this resolution shuts out a significant portion of competition. So I'm a numbers person, numbers don't lie, and my favorite saying is that hindsight is 20/20. So what I did was, I'm going to take you through this very quickly, and I think this is really the bulk of it. It'll take me, I'll get through very quickly, I promise. What I did was I went back to 18 months before the resolution was passed, and I looked at all the bids that the City of Kingston bid, and I said, what would happen if this resolution was in place when these jobs were bid, okay? So we have these projects, you'll see I've color coded it. Here's all the bidders, here's their bid prices. If it's color coded red, that means that the bidder would not meet your requirements in your resolution and they wouldn't be able to bid. There were a couple of contractors, I wasn't sure, those are coded yellow. And then there's those that are coded green, and that's representative that we think they would be able to meet them based on being a union contractor. So the first bid going back is 1/19/2021 Broadway Sewer Project. There were 7 bidders. The first bidder did complete the project. The first and second bidder did not meet your requirement. That means if the resolution had been in effect at that time, you would have had to have gone to the third bidder, and their price was $531,015 more, okay? We're gonna go to the next bidder, the next bid. 33021 Grand Street intersection reconfiguration. Again, it went to the low bidder. At this time, if this resolution was in effect, it would not have been able to have been awarded to them. They don't meet your requirement. I'd also like to point out that only 2 of the 4 bidders meet your requirement. So you're cutting out 50% of competition. Anytime you cut out competition like that, your prices are going to go up. So the first bidder, you would not be able to award it to. It would go to the second bidder. That would be a cost to the city, if this resolution was in effect, of $129,982. Next, we go to the next bid, 4921 Kingston Pedestrian Safety. 3 bidders. Out of 3 bidders, only 1 bidder is able to meet your resolution. Again, you're knocking out 66% of the competition. The low bidder did not meet your requirement. You'd have to go to the next bidder in order to comply. That would only cost the city $2,000. That was a close bid. Next bid, 111821 Henry Sewer. You've got 5 bidders. Only 1 bidder meets your requirement. You've knocked out 80% of the competition. You would have had to have bypassed the first bidder, the second bidder. It would have been a cost to the city of $396,600. Next bid, 4/19/2022 Midtown Parking Lots. You've got 4 bidders. Only 50% of the bidders meet your requirement. You'd have to bypass the first and second bidders that are low, they don't meet. You'd have to go to the third bidder. That would have been a cost to the city of $272,002. Next bid, Cora Street, Water Main. Bid on 5/19/2022. 6 bidders, only 1 bidder meets your requirement. You'd have to bypass the first and second bidder, give it to the third bidder. That's an extra cost of $85,660. Next bid, Wilbur Avenue repaving project, 6/1/2022. 3 bidders, only 1 bidder out of 3 meets your requirement. You have to bypass the first bidder, who I'm pretty sure did I think all these were awarded. Go to the second bidder, that's a cost to the city of $292,262. Next bid, 7/5/2022 ADA ramps. The low bidder, there were 2 bidders, 1 complied, 1 did not. It did go to the low bidder, it did go to the company that complied. They were low bidder, so there's no cost there. So all in all, when you add these up in an 18-month period, this would have been an additional cost to the city of $1,709,586. Now, there is an argument that having an apprentice can save money. The way I work with apprentices, I would disagree, because you're never going to use, so I think the theory is that you can pay an apprentice less money. However, I never take an apprentice and replace them with a worker. They're not trained. There's a reason why they're there. So actually having an apprentice is an investment, and it oftentimes costs you more money. Now, the other part of that is you have to understand at this time, your resolution wasn't in effect. You're going to find on the next page, we're going to go to bids that were bid after the resolution took effect. You're going to find that there's bidders like myself that are bidding in protest. Eventually, we're going to give up and go away. So your competition, so even though you have a little bit more bidders, that's going to go away, if that makes sense. Before I move on to the next part of bids, do you guys understand like what I'm doing? And
I think so. I do have one question. So is this a comprehensive list of bids, or is it a selected list?
No, so this should be, and I meant to say that I apologize. You can go to the city engineer. I did foil this, and like I had my records. I did try to foil from the city, but I didn't get it in time, but I had most of it anyway. I do believe this is a complete listing. It was not cherry picking, but I would encourage you to go to the city engineer and he can certainly confirm if there's anything missing. And he can also confirm that these are in fact the bidders and the bid prices.
Even if something is missing, your point still.
Yes, correct. Yeah, yes.
It's a side issue.
Yep. Okay, so, moving on. So then what I did was I said, okay, resolution has passed. Let's look at the bids that were after that fact. So the first bid was 12/8/2022, Sterling Street. As Mr. Ham says, great turnout. I really feel there was probably a big push, like, hey guys, we've got this passed, you guys have to show up. 12 bidders. I will say all these union contractors on here, pretty much all of them, I actually have a current contract with them myself. They're all fantastic bidders. This isn't about union contractors not being good. This is about competitive bidding and a healthy bidding environment for the city. So I do work with these guys every day. They're all great. I'm not bashing them by any means. I want to make that very, very clear. So came out strong. The low bidder did not meet the requirement. So it was given to the second bidder and that was an additional cost of $73,894. Moving on, the next bid was on 2/28/2023. As you can see, the competition is going to fall off now, right? So you had two bidders. Neither one of them meet the requirement. The bid or the contract could not be awarded. I don't know, there could have been other issues involved, I'm not sure. I will say, and I know that this has come from speaking with some of the common council members, that one of the concerns is a lot of times when you have these projects, there's grant money involved that has expiration dates that can jeopardize that. The other part of that is, you know, the longer you wait, prices are always going up. So it's certainly not a good thing to be doing this. Okay, next bid, 4/18/2023. 5 bidders. Here we are again. Only one bidder meets your requirement. You're knocking out 80% of the competition. It's not good for the city. Again, these people are going to fall off, and then you're going to be left with one bidder. The low bidder in this project did back out due to an error in their bid. So it was awarded to the second bidder. Great contractor, they're union. I do work with them all the time. I would say that this was at no cost to the city because the low bidder backed out. So I can't fault on that. Okay. Next contract, 4/5/2023, Kingston Water Department replacement of critical transmission valve. This one's a little wonky. There was federal funding involved with this project, so the apprenticeship requirement that you guys passed was not in there, but I think it's still really important to show that there was 4 bidders and only one bidder out of the 4th, and it was the higher bidder, could meet your requirement. That means if there wasn't federal funding involved, it would have been an additional price tag of $254,831. Next bid, Kingston Uptown Streetscape, only 2 bidders. The low bidder does not comply, you can't award it. The next bidder is $694,000 higher than them, and the bids were thrown out because it's over budget. The next bid, 8/15/2023, Prince Street Streetscape, there were no bids received. So I think that this, again, I always like to back up what I say with facts. And so I think these are the facts. And so as a taxpayer, you know, there's a couple of things going on here. One thing is, and I didn't want to use contractor names, I used a couple, but one of them is these contracts on the first couple of pages done by Colarusso. They're a great contractor, and I'm here to stick up for them too. I do a lot of work with them. I mean, honestly, I would say on these pages, 95% of these contractors, union and non-union, I've done work with both ways. I'm sub to them, they're sub to me. You know, there's a couple of them I can't speak to, but as a taxpayer, I get real heartburn looking here going, you got a great bid from Colarusso, and as we know, they did your project successfully, and I don't understand what the benefit would be to pay $1.7 million more than, I mean, that's a lot of money. So, you know, as common council members, I do think that you have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers. And so that's why I'm pointing that out. You know, sometimes I think sometimes I think that you spend more money and maybe you're gonna get something more. And so, I think that's something to take into consideration. But this is a lot of money. And my understanding of your resolution is the reason why you passed it was you were really trying to give, really support apprentices and give youth in our community an opportunity. And I think that's a great cause. I will say that I don't think that you're accomplishing that by doing this. As I said, I have many relations with businesses, union businesses, union employees, union owners, and I actually called someone who I work with who's in the union, actually in 825 after the meeting the other night, who lives in this area, probably about within a 10-minute drive from here, and has been with 825 for many years. And I asked him to confirm what I thought. How many times have you worked with an apprentice? And I think he's been with the union for 15 years. And he said, I can remember 1 or 2 times, and it was down in New Jersey. So here's a local person, and again, it all goes back to this is just another way to knock out competition, and I don't think that there's any benefit to the city. Just a couple more things. I'm going to wrap up, and then okay. Again, I just wanted to point out. Every day we work with union and non-union. This is not, my problem really was a person that came here that was speaking lies, and I felt, and usually I don't stand up and get nasty like that. I apologize that I did, but, I really felt like that wasn't fair. I tried to be honest and fair, and I was very disappointed in that. I also just want to very quickly settle some scare tactics that have gone on. One of them is safety. And I just want to say, whether you're union or not, it doesn't indicate how safe your company is. Our apprenticeship program, I'm going to speak outside of our company and more for our apprenticeship program. Our apprenticeship program is the only apprenticeship program I know that there's certain criteria that you have to meet in order to be eligible to join. And one of those criteria is safety. It's based on an EMR rating, which is it's a ratio that's calculated off of actual work incidents, right? So if you're a company that has, a lot of accidents, that's going to impact your ratio. It's something that's independently calculated by an insurance company. There's no getting around it. If you don't have a certain ratio, you're not eligible to join our apprenticeship program. So that's a scare tactic. I just want to say that. The other scare tactic that was kind of hurtful to hear is that we're a pay-to-play program, that people pay money and then they walk away and they're not committed.
When you say we, are you talking about American Alliance?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. My business is part of. Yeah,
The use of we goes all over the place, right?
Yeah, sorry.
That's the royal way, right?
Yeah. So we were inaccurately categorized as a pay to play. And I just want to say that could not be further from the truth. Pay to play, basically what was insinuated is that a contractor comes in and they pay their money and then they never have an apprentice. They just reap the benefits of having an apprenticeship program. We actually are the only apprenticeship program I know that, yes, you pay. However, every contractor has to sign a commitment that every year they're going to take on 500 hours of an apprentice. So everybody in our program is invested in the apprenticeship program. Now, my company in particular, what we like to do is the people that you saw the other night, we like to take people in from the community and we keep them on full. We usually have somebody on full year. We don't just do the 500 hours, we'll do like 2,000 or whatever. So I just wanted to clear that up. And then I just want to say, we've been in business 50 years. It's always been our employees' decision to be open shop. We've always respected that. We've always supported that. And I don't think that's just happens to be what works best for them and their families. I think primarily because they're immediately vested in their retirement and there's no minimum hours that they have to work in order to get health insurance. They get health insurance from day one. So, and then a lot of their benefits they get to take home rather than send it to a union. To each their own. Everybody has a different thing. But I don't think that it's fair to penalize or discriminate our employees because that's what they choose, that they choose to be open shop. The last thing I want to say is I've been, my father started this business. I've been here for 20 years. We work all over New York State, Buffalo, I mean, even to Boston, into Massachusetts, Plattsburgh, down to Camden, New Jersey, primarily New York State, all over. We've worked for hundreds of municipalities. Our biggest customer is the actual state of New York. We do a lot of work for them, DOT, OGS. We also have some high profile clients. We've done work in the Park Avenue Tunnel. We've done work on the new Tappan Zee Bridge. We've done work at the state office building in Albany. We've done work at Governor's Mansion. We've been called Governor's Cuomo. We've worked everywhere, okay? I point that out because we have never been denied to work on a project because our apprenticeship program isn't good enough for them. Never. Not until the city of Kingston and then Ulster County filed suit, okay? And I just want to say that there's no big secret that you guys know that they don't know. And I truly believe, and I would like to think, that you guys, and I say you guys, I mean the Common Council, were sold a bag of goods that, quite honestly, you didn't know you were buying. And I truly believe that, because I think that when, you know, there's three sides to every story, and I think that I could see the look on a lot of your faces when our employees got up, and I don't think you really understood what was happening. So I did want to come here. Obviously, I'm local, but I did want to come here on behalf of all the other contractors and also, you know, on behalf of the community as a taxpayer. And I just, Penny just very quickly wanted to talk a little bit about our kind of what we think would be fair, if that's okay, as the merit.
So we've met before. It's a pleasure to see you again. Thank you for the time. Really appreciate it. There are a couple of things that I do want to reiterate that Val mentioned about the Merit Alliance, right? We are a small organization. We have somewhere about 140 contractors statewide. We do have 5 trades, but not all of the 140 contractors use all of those trades. So essentially, you know, we're a consortium of contractors, but it's 140. Comparatively, 825, if we look at their website, it's 8,500, 7,200. I mean, there's all kinds of numbers to allude to. But as a small sponsor, you know, our goal is to put our apprentices to work, right? And so when we select our contractors, we work specifically to vet our contractors to make sure they're safe. And I think that the reference to the AMR, I did a quick snapshot of just like my Eastern New York, Hudson Valley contractors and what their EMR is. And the average was a 0.89. So that means that their workers' comp premium is 11% lower than the average, and that they are on the safer side. And we don't let contractors come in if they have sort of a, you know, wanton disregard for safety. Primarily, I'm a mom, because I don't want what I affectionately call my kids. I don't want my kids hurt. I don't want to send an apprentice to a contractor who has no respect for keeping someone who is essentially untrained for having, you know, letting them get hurt. So not only do we look at safety for our contractors, we get audited financial statements, we look at their scope of work, and we do require them to hire apprentices. And sometimes there's a year where a smaller contractor won't, you know, it just happens, smaller firms. And sometimes we say, gee, if you're a small firm, you can only do a month for an apprentice. Okay, it's a good faith effort. But the point is that we really are about getting our apprentices to work. And the issue that we have with the resolution, as I've said before, the 30% is not a problem. We're all in for the 30%.
Problem is that 3 graduates per year for each of the past 5 years. That's incredibly restrictive. Because a small program isn't going to do it. And as you can see from the data that Val collected, these are some of the contractors that will not meet that. I'm not embarrassed to say that we don't meet 3 graduates per year, because my goal is not about just raw numbers. It's about doing the thing. We recruit apprentices when we need them to meet the needs of our contractors. I noticed that 825 just opened a vacancy. They're going to accept 250 applications, and they're going to put new people on in April of 2024. In October of 2022, they posted a vacancy announcement for apprentices for 10 apprentices. 10 apprentices for the Lower Hudson Valley and the Southern Tier area. All of those contractors, all of that impact for 10 apprentices. So my personal and our organization's request is that put apprentices on job sites. Forget the numbers of 3 per year. Make it a requirement that your contractors actually employ apprentices on Kingston work. It's a win-win. If you do that, you're going to help the graduation rates of any program, whether it's union or non-union. And there are great union programs out there, and there are great open shop programs. We are not a pay play. There are others who are, and we're not them. So I think that is really a big part of why we're here, is to make sure that if the mission of the original resolution in 2012, and it specifically says that resolution was to, quote, better suit the needs of utilizing local workforce. That was over 10 years ago. This current resolution doesn't do it. The 30% graduation rate is an indicator of quality, and I think that's a great move. But requiring graduation rates doesn't do it. I think that if you require that contractors employ apprentices, then you're going to do something for the local community. I'm sorry? It's one that we have. So, I think we're going to let go. Hi.
How are you?
You were just I'm still here. So, I think, again, this is not a union bashing, non-union better. I think it needs to be a conversation about aiming good quality programs, aim to engage the community, aim to keep good quality contractors in the process, and it becomes a win-win for the city. It shouldn't be politicized.
Okay. Yes.
That's some questions.
Absolutely.
Good question. I have some comments, but you go first. I changed my comments once I hear the question. I have a series of questions. First, thank you all for being here tonight and representing this side. So Val, in your opinion, what's the usefulness of apprenticeship programs?
What's the usefulness?
Both in general and for your
Okay,
company.
yes, so well, there's a bunch of different reasons, right? Obviously, it brings somebody in. I will say probably the answer that you're probably not expecting, but I'm gonna be truthful, is a laborer or an operator, let's use a laborer, is, it's like $80 an hour. Okay, so when you bring somebody in that doesn't know anything about laboring, you have to pay them that $80 that they're making standing next to the person who's been working there 30 years. And so it kind of becomes this, people, like, I don't know how to describe it, but people get upset, right? Like, Kira, I know how to do this and I'm busting my butt doing it and you don't know anything. So a lot of it is, a big portion honestly is morale. You can pay somebody $33 an hour or whatever it is based on what, and then people are more willing to engage with them and help them. And I mean, listen, our staff is great. They want to help them anyway. But there's certainly that piece is how do you pay somebody $80 an hour that doesn't know anything? So there's that piece of it. But then there's the growth part of it too. We do training every every year for everybody, but this also offers training with Penny. They get to go up for how much?
6 weeks.
6 weeks of training with her. And it also, it's just a great program. I mean, just to see the progress of them, you know, going through and completing for somebody who's like Tom Peterson when he was 19. You know, it was a great progression. And then to see that he then got moved to laborer and then he got moved, now he's a foreman, he's running a crew. So for, for somebody who's 19, and also it comes with health insurance and 401k and, everything else, so.
How many apprentices, if you have this figure, how many apprentices do you hire on the average job?
So our crews are typically 5 people, okay? And if you have an apprentice on a job, you have to, for safety reasons, and obviously it makes sense, you have to have them matched with someone who's what they call journeyman, right? So if I have a 5-man crew, I'm gonna have my foreman who's running the crew. And then, depending on what the nature of the work is, you might have a teamster, a laborer, an apprentice, and an operator. So usually you're only you would have 1 apprentice on a job because, obviously for safety and learning reasons like that. We have done before, and Penny knows, we have brought in, similar to like a union, we've brought in an apprentice and put them on a job that's out of town. Let's say they're from Syracuse and, we have a job that's close to Syracuse. We might put them on that crew. And then we have our own local apprentice. When we sponsor apprentices though, that's a full-time apprentice. We only do local people for a lot of different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to travel.
And what percentage of the jobs you do think have an apprentice on them?
So if we have 40 people, that's what I'm saying, it's like, so if we have 40, we have 60 employees, we have like 40 people in the field, we always have 1 full-time apprentice.
Okay, good. And if I understood correctly, then you both are involved in training apprentices that work with Arrold.
Correct.
So part of it is with you on the job, part of it is with you in a specialized facility.
Right, so Arrold's apprentices are registered or enrolled through programs through us.
Mhm.
And Arrold is signatory to the alliance.
Okay.
So that's how it works. So as a signatory contractor, they chose to have a dedicated apprentice. So they have 1 apprentice that they keep all the time, and then we have other apprentices that, similar to a union structure, that we assign to work for different contractors based on geography, based on trade, based on where they're on their training program. So it's sort of a combination of what we call a dedicated apprentice and a different, and a rotated apprentice, if you will.
Renee, I do want to go back to, before I forget, I want to go back because I know it's also said, just because we only have 1 apprentice, we also have other avenues, like we said, like I said the other day, 1/3 of our employees are under the age of 30. So like you heard from Ryan Baker, right? He didn't go through the apprentice program. Or we may have somebody like, we just hired somebody who had worked for a landscaping business for a few years. So they have, they have a little bit of experience. So we hire them as a journeyman. So it's kind of the same thing. We train them the same way. The only difference is they're making a lot more money. That's the only difference. Everything else is the same.
Okay.
So, but those people wouldn't affect the graduation rate requirement.
Correct.
But they don't get calculated in. That's what I'm saying. We have, the apprenticeship program is just one way that we.
It's a very structured process, right?
I'm sorry, say that again?
It's a very structured process. The apprenticeship program is very structured and it's trade specific, wherein, the kind of training that Arrold or some of the other contractors do more informally, typically there's more cross training, right? Because they're training for all kinds of things.
May I just ask, am I jumping in here in the program?
Jump away.
Um,
I've got plenty of questions.
I got plenty of comments. So right now, how many employees, full-time employees is there?
60, about 60.
And you have 1 apprentice, is that right?
Right, so out of those, there's about 20 that we have 3 mechanics on site, we have a shop, we have estimators, we have office staff that are not. So out of those 60, about 40 are in the field. Now, the problem becomes, and I know my brother kind of hinted on this a little bit, we are also involved, and I should bring this to your attention, we're also involved in a very specialized construction that, for instance, it was what fixed the Washington Avenue sinkhole. A lot of those crews are 2 men. They're 2-man crews. They go out together. So you can't put an apprentice on those jobs. So that's a lot of the reason too, why that kind of squashes out that possibility of, being able to put an apprentice on. So really, it's kind of our apprenticeship program, because again, like I said, and full disclosure, so we have 40 field employees, about 20 of them are home based, they live here and they work locally here. And that's really where we pull the apprentice from. So it's really 1 out of 20. Our other 20 employees, that's our specialized construction. They come from all over. I have a guy who flies in from Illinois. Okay, it's very specialized. They're not really working locally unless you have like one of those construction projects here. They're the ones that are going to Boston, they're going to Buffalo, they're going,
And they wouldn't have an apprentice, right?
They would not have, because a lot of those crews are 1 or 2. But those aren't the local employees anyway. So really, when you drill down the local employees that work in the field, there's like 20, and we always have 1 on staff.
So there's a follow-up question here, which is probably obvious. So you have 1 apprentice, but you also have people who are young and who are apprentices and everything but name only.
Yes.
And how many of those 20 fall into that category?
Well, 20 out of the 60 fall into that category. 20 out of 60 of our employees are under that age of 30. Now, if I went back and I looked at home base, I have to go back and look.
I'm just trying to get this, this is just for,
Yeah, do they get the training?
Oh, yeah.
They get the same
Everything,
training, they just don't have the title, and they have a higher pay.
they have a higher pay. A lot of times, here's a perfect example. Somebody comes in, they're 25 years old, this has happened. They would be a perfect candidate for the apprenticeship program. They've got 3 kids. And because they have 3 kids, their wife's not working because daycare is ridiculous. I can't, in good conscience, pay them 30, even though $30 an hour is it's very expensive to live. So in good conscience, it's, all right, you're gonna take this on. You will be a journeyman, we will pay you the higher rate, and we will train you. We shut down, Tom can tell you, we shut down every year for a full week and do training. But then on top of that person, we like to buddy them up with somebody that,
I'm trying to cut behind the kind of formal structures of apprentices and find out what's actually going on in training young people and preparing them and equipping them well for a good future, right? And that's a separate, different conversation from data about membership in apprenticeship programs, right?
If I can
Yeah.
jump in, so one of the differences that you're looking at is the difference between a structured, formalized, registered apprenticeship program, which is predicated on very structured trade occupations, principal occupations. So laborer is a laborer, carpenter is a carpenter, an operator, and so on, right? In the merit shop organizations, right, an open shop contractor doesn't have to confine its employees to specifically those trades all the time because there's more cross training, right? It gives the company the flexibility of having 5 or 6 guys on a crew, and 2 of those guys may be really awesome operators and they're really awesome laborers or whatever, right? So in a day, although they may be paid differently to comply with New York State labor law, they have the skills of 2 different trades.
If somebody
right?
calls in sick, they can also, they're fine.
Yeah, they're gonna jump in and they're gonna do what they have to do on a piece of equipment, right? So there's a difference in sort of business structure on how that looks, right? So the apprentices, because the apprenticeship programs are really confined to the principal occupations, operator apprentices are operator apprentices, that's what they do. So if there's a need for an operator apprentice to jump out of a piece of equipment and do some manual grading, right? Well, that work should be done by a laborer. right? And if that operator apprentice does that, that person is not an operator apprentice, but now they're a laborer full journeyman. Right, so it's a difference in how the structure of the business works.
Got it.
So the cross-training that Arrow does, quite honestly, we think is really a good thing, because it provides, it provides employees full-time employment.
I totally get it. It's like,
And then-
why play first base when you can play shortstop too?
Right, okay, I'm gonna go with that.
That's perfect, that's actually a perfect example. A lot of people that do come, like that 25-year-old that I told you about, he had a CDL, so he kind of came in as a truck driver. And, obviously part of it was financial, he had 3 kids. But the other part of it is, I wanted to use him as a truck driver and then also as a laborer. If he was an apprentice, I couldn't do that. And truth be told, except for apprentices, all of our employees have to be able to do at least 2 trades out of driving, operating a piece of equipment, and laboring. And that's also where we are able to be efficient and cost savings to municipalities, because if I have a job in the morning where everybody's laboring for 4 hours, and then the afternoon they have to jump, then they gotta jump in and the equipment and use the equipment, I can have 3 people labor in the morning and then 3 people operate in the afternoon. If I was in the union, I'd have to have 3 laborers, pay them 8 hours, even though they only work 4, and 3 operators and pay them 8 hours a week. And listen, on their side, there's also other savings too, like we have to pay taxes on our benefits. So it goes both ways, but that flexibility too is also, the reason why.
And just put it as a point, I mean, Arrow does a really awesome job, but, other contractors, and specifically Colarusso, who couldn't be here, we've got graduates of the program who are now foremen, supervisors, so it's the same, it's what Val does, with all due respect, is not really that unique to just Arrow.
Yeah.
It's a business approach, right,
So what is your graduation?
Actually,
6.
Yeah, so we're not gonna have the conference from the side today.
Okay. 69%, I can't get trades right in my brain this moment, it's 69, 67, and 50% are the 3 trades. We have 2 other trades, concrete and iron worker, who have not yet graduated apprentices. They got approved right before COVID, we had COVID fallout with those particular apprentices, and we haven't graduated.
They're new programs.
The 2 new programs, yeah. But the other programs, yes, we are very proud of our graduation rates.
So I'm wondering if you could figure out a number, which is following on these questions about number of employees. If you had to live up to the 3 trade-specific graduates over the last 5 years, in each of the last 5 years, how many apprentices would you have to have on staff?
So,
While you're thinking of that, can I just put it back on you? I just want to know from the city's perspective, what the city is gaining from that, like what the benefit is.
Well, what we're trying to figure out is clearly this question of how do you have a good apprenticeship program? And what's the burden that it might place on a company like yours? So for example, if this meant you had to have 15 apprentices on staff, that's a quarter of your staff.
well, for her, it would be, right. And
Yeah, it would be.
so it's a ratio thing, right? It's the small contractors, a lot of our firms are relatively small. We have some bigger sized companies, and those bigger companies do have 2 or 3 apprentices. To give you a number, labor program is our biggest program. So we have 28, 29 labor apprentices right now that are around. The operating program is more specialized, and the carpentry program is more specialized because our goal again is to keep them working all the time. So we don't bring on an apprentice unless we're pretty sure that we're going to keep them employed. And I don't bench people, right? Because when they're benched there, it's not helping anybody. I would guess we would probably have to, for the carpenters and the operators, probably double the number of apprentices that we have to have. I guess that would probably be it.
And it sounds quite frankly that that requirement isn't something you can't even realistically aspire to, given the structure.
Because it varies so much.
I love that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, no, I personally couldn't just because the nature, of, like I said, our crews and things, I couldn't, but, you know, again, I would also say, I think that I believe as a city resident, what you're trying to accomplish is getting young people in this community to work. And, you know, as I had said, I don't think that this second paragraph, based on the information I gave you, is accomplishing that. So like Penny said, if you wanted to do something rather than just pull that paragraph out and we wanted to get people to work, then why wouldn't that second paragraph say something about any work that's done in the city of Kingston, 5% of the man hours have to be done by an apprentice, right?
Mhm.
I'm not trying to kick anybody out of the sandbox. I think we all should be here. We all should work together. I want to work together. That's something that benefits everybody and accomplishes what you guys are trying to accomplish.
Right.
Bradley, can I just make a comment at this point?
You can.
I want to catch you up on where I am on this.
Sure.
Because you're sort of speaking to like a cipher. You don't know where I am. And you
Sorry.
may not know where Rita and Rennie are. So let me
Sure.
just speak for myself.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
I'm sorry.
before you do that, let's go into questions.
Please.
Rather than us going into like a kind of discussion kind of period.
Absolutely.
Okay. So did you have any other questions
Mhm.
before? He's like,
And I do have, but God.
So what I'm sort of gathering, particularly looking at this, looking at some other information we found, is currently the resolution that we passed and we're talking about repealing has a ceiling of $100,000 in terms of the contracts. Above that, anybody has to have an apprenticeship program, right? And the county put theirs, their limit at 750,000. Nothing in here is below 750,000. So in essence, that first part is kind of meaningless. Pretty much anybody who's going to put in a bid on any of these things, it's already going to be above 750,000.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I would say that. And again, I mean, looking at, I don't know why you would want to box out competition anyway, you know what I mean? But
And then the county in their law has several exemptions. Or rather, several possibilities for exemption. Have you looked at those at all?
so I will say this, and I'm going to be completely blunt. And this is just matter of fact. I don't again see either you're going to do business with us or you aren't. And I'm not interested in playing that game. And that's fine if that's your decision. But if you're not going to respect my employee's decision to be open shop, then, I mean, we've got other people who are very happy to work with us. It just doesn't leave a,
How is that responsive to Rennie's question? It's not clear to me how it is.
So-
He asked about the exemptions.
yeah, so what he's saying is, like, I think what you're saying is leaving the apprenticeship program, leaving it the way it is, but then, oh, but if this happens, it will exempt you from it, or if that happens, we'll exempt you from it.
That's the
That's the county's version. And I'm just gonna be flagrant, and that's fine, we can part ways and not do business, I'm fine with that. I don't know how other contractors feel, but to me, I take it a little bit more personally because we have deep roots, and so for that door to be shut in our face, I take that a little personally.
Gotcha. Okay.
Thank you for your frank answer.
And then I guess I've got some, I'll ask just this one last one. So how many employees, do you have a good sense of how many Arrow employees live locally, like Kingston, Ulster County? Right?
Yeah, Ulster County, I'd say 40.
Okay, so good.
Yeah.
Great. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Andrea?
Yeah, I thank you for this. I was very happy to hear that. Does this include the ones that didn't come back with any bids still? Because
The
it's
last
kind of
one,
hard to hear, because I know that there have been a few that
There's
didn't get
one that
any.
came back.
Okay,
so this is, Andrew, just so you know, because it may have been heard, the first 3 pages this is kind of split in two. The first 3 pages are bids that were bid before the resolution passed. So it's kind of like, what would have happened if the resolution was in place? The second 2 are the bids that, after the resolution was passed. There's one here on the back with no bids. Again, we had foiled this a couple weeks ago. We haven't gotten it. So I was just pulling from our bid results, and I did compare the numbers with a couple of other contractors to make sure everything looked good. You can, confirm it obviously with the city engineer. So there may be other bids where there were no bids. I don't know.
Yeah, so I had heard that, so I didn't hear you speak about, I only see the one which I was aware of that project, not. Yeah, and I think there's more.
Okay.
So I appreciate this information. And yeah, I mean, just to go back to your question, I mean, the intent, at least what I gathered a year ago, was to get young people, good work. Young people from the city of Kingston are close to good work, not to escalate funds for taxpayers to pay up their pocket. So I've been troubled by this for a while, which is why I'm still advocating for what I asked for 2 months ago. I know it's only a Band-Aid, but I think, especially seeing these numbers here, I just don't see how we could wait another month. I mean, I brought that 2 months ago. So I still am requesting that the council maybe even compromise instead of repealing the whole resolution, just the last sentence, just the trade specific, keep the 30% graduation rate, and then still let's keep this conversation going and perhaps look at the county, see if there's anything else that we want to adjust. So I think this is a situation where we have best intentions. And it didn't pan out the way we were anticipating, or it has consequences that we weren't anticipating, and sometimes that happens. And I think we need a Band-Aid right now before we fix the problem and continue these conversations with everybody who I appreciate coming the last 2 months.
Right.
So I guess since it was my communication, I guess I'm changing it to requesting you guys to just change or just get rid of the last sentence. The trade specific, keep the 30% graduation rate. I think that's a good compromise. And then keep the conversations flowing and take it from there. That's my request.
I agree with that because what I'm hearing is, our intent is not to knock out local, especially local businesses, not to knock out and you obviously do a lot of, our local contractors obviously do a lot of work in Kingston. That's what we want. We want the young people coming in and we want them to stay on, right? And what I'm hearing is everything in this resolution is fine except for the trade, because that's something that local contractors or smaller contractors would not be able to handle.
Okay, really, do you mind if I also add one thing? I mentioned this 2 months ago, and actually at that time, I think Val and I spoke maybe once, but I've also heard this from other contractors too, the same exact complaints. So I don't want people to think we're doing something for Val, or we're doing something, it's.
My whole thing today was bigger than, beyond there.
Yeah, so I just wanted to also clarify that too. I've been hearing concerns from contractors, but also constituents too, now that they're hearing that.
Awake.
Yeah. Yes, is that like we want to?
Comments? Well, I first of all, I will support that, what you propose. If you do, I think we can do.
One of us has.
Yeah, right. I will support.
For anybody who's unclear, Andrew's the president, and ironically, she doesn't have a vote. So that's why she's talking about y'all as opposed to us doing this. So one of us, who's a voting member of the council, has to propose it, and somebody else has to second it, and then we would have a vote, and then it will go to the common council. So if we do this.
So I will support that. I do think that there may be ways to craft a new way to approach this that sort of address the issue in a more elegant and eloquent way. So it doesn't mean what we have is a done deal, but we can start by doing that. That's the first thing. The second thing, I just want you to know that I am not pro-union, I'm not pro-open shop. I am pro level playing field. And that's what I want to see happen. And I want to see that people who live locally and are committed to living locally, to building a life in Kingston, are not abandoned by the government that they're counting on to support them. So you totally have my back on that. I was very moved by the collective presentations that you made.
Thank
They
you.
touched my heart.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate that.
the missing part was the head. You gave me that with this presentation, right?
I'm sorry,
With this presentation, then you could address the sort of left brain,
Oh.
left brain, money calculation things. The
Yeah.
head and heart is a winning combination. So I want you to know I'm not against anything union. I'm all for the unions. I'm all for everybody getting to play together and play nicely together. But I'm not for us intentionally or inadvertently skewing the playing field. And so my commitment going forward will be to come up, to help draft and come up with legislation that does precisely that.
And if I could be so bold as to ask in the future when you're thinking of those things and you bring in the union reps, if you would keep me in mind for just some feedback. I'm a taxpayer, so I'm not just looking out for my best and the business's best interest. I'm also looking out for the community's best interests. So, just to keep it fair and balanced, I would like to be
Yeah,
involved in
I
things.
think that's what our goal is, to keep things fair. I mean, we had reps from the union come in and speak to us, and now we're having you come in and speak
Okay.
to us. And so our goal is to be fair on both sides,
Okay.
much like Carl just said.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And I'll also just add sort of a postscript, which is that I'm not a professional governed person. I'm not a professional technocrat. I'm a citizen who has a life that has nothing to do with what's being discussed here. So when people come in and propose something, we don't have time, we don't have assistants to do research, we go, that sounds good. And we don't really have a clue sometimes. And it's one of the, it's one of the, it's one of the, I'm quite serious.
The consensus of everyone else is Carl is speaking for himself.
I'm speaking for myself here, but I know that the lack of time and way too many other obligations, it's easy to just sort of, that sounds good, and sign off on something that don't really know what's going on. And I think that we are prone to that, but it's not any individual's fault. It's kind of a structural issue, and it's one of the prices you pay for having citizens.
No, and when we sat at that common council meeting, people were getting up speaking, I could see it written all over your face that that was not your intention. And that's what I don't hold it against anybody on the common council.
I'm not asking for forgiveness or apology. I'm trying to explain what we are up against on this side of the decision-making fence.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me, I know Bob and Sarah are on with us tonight. Did you all have any questions for Val?
Oh, I had one comment that I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, and I'm reluctant to say it, but one model for apprentice programs is a pay item. Now, I don't think that's appropriate for us because I think it'd be difficult to administrate, but that is one model that people use. Aside from that, I don't have any questions. I think you made a good presentation, and thank you for doing the homework.
Thank you.
Well, that's certainly one of the things that we could talk about as we're going through and trying to craft something that works for everyone.
So the city of Ithaca just passed it. Yeah, they just passed something similar where they give contractors a $5 credit for every hour that an apprentice works. And I did share that with Rennie. I just thought, I didn't know if the city had the funds to do something like that. So that was my concern with that, but it has been done.
And we've got other models too.
Sarah, did you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. I think any questions that I had were already asked and answered. So again, I want to thank everyone for such thoughtful questions. And the presentation was very thoughtful and educational, and I appreciate the work that went into creating that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'd like Alderman Frankel will support what President Andrea Shute proposed, that we consider to go ahead, but we also remove the phrase that is at issue here. So I would go for that.
Yeah,
I have two more requests. Can this be emailed to me?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we can share with the rest of the council.
Yeah, we have
All right,
extra.
yeah.
We're gonna put it in the
I'll put it in the
boxes.
mailbox. Never
Okay,
mind.
yeah, you can take all these copies.
I'll do that. Thank you. And then can we also, this doesn't need a resolution, but I think it'd be good to maybe pick two volunteers from Laws and Rules to keep these conversations going. Val, okay? You're on Laws and Rules now. Welcome to the council. We've had enough changes. You could, I mean, it doesn't have to be discussed right now, but I think it's, you know, to keep this going and to make sure that whoever two people are gonna keep the communications with everybody open, and then bring forward, whether it's next month or in 2 months, whenever ready, bring some suggestions. So think about if you want to volunteer. Otherwise, I guess,
But not now.
you don't have to think about it. Think about it and then,
I'm happy to do it.
okay.
And I'll join.
There you go, see?
It's already sort of a conversation started.
All right, sounds good.
You have some.
So I see your hand up. I'm deciding right now whether I'm going to have you speak because we, so Val was invited and she asked, and we said, yes, I don't want to get into discussion going back and forth between union, open shop, non-open shop, union, non-union. I don't want to do that.
I don't want to do that either.
Okay.
I think we just wanted the moment to address some issues here that were raised that were incorrect. That's,
Well,
we don't need it.
I'm not-
We don't need, we can submit it.
So my question is, how can you make an informed decision based on one view? It goes recorded, and it seems like.
Mike came and spoke to us also last month.
If we have new information that's incorrect, you've been given information that's not accurate, you're gonna make a decision based on that information. I would like an opportunity, Mike, like an opportunity just to ask our questions and shine a light.
Yeah, we can put that.
If you're not
into-
prepared to vote tonight, then that would be fine.
We get this opportunity to
Right,
submit because,
because
you know,
Please do.
we have everything that's dictated over here and everything, so it's easy to go through. There was just a couple things that were mentioned that are totally incorrect. And
Well, as
not-
indicated though, this is not going to be.
No, I don't want to do it right now.
Right.
I apologize that you're
And
you're the chair.
any
I-
questions or anything that you want to submit, you certainly can do that, right?
And now you know the two volunteers who are going to be working on this project. And whatever, what we do today is not,
It's not fine.
It's not, we're the committee. We're just gonna, we will, myself, I will reach out to anybody it makes sense to reach out to.
Makes sense to, or
I'm sorry.
reaches out to you.
I'd like things to go through.
We'll talk the issue over with everyone.
Was it a joke when you said Val was on the committee? Yes.
No,
Yeah.
yes, that's.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
I don't want that. That's going my life.
It doesn't work.
No.
Joke.
I'm good, no, I'm good. I took it as a joke.
Sometimes the public representation on the committee.
No,
Yeah, not the laws and rules committee.
Just asking a question.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So sounds like what I'm hearing tonight is that we want to amend the resolution that's for us to remove that last clause in there that deals with the trade specific language.
yes.
All right, so I'm gonna, that's before us and that's what I'll call,
So you're actually gonna vote on it after asking us some like comments on what was proposed here.
please.
Now, that's the question. I just said, that's what my question was. If you're not gonna vote on it, we'd be happy to submit comments.
well, you still can
Well, what's the
because
purpose?
we
You're
would
gonna vote
still
on
be.
No, it goes to the council next. This is.
Right,
not
this is
final.
only coming out of laws and rules, and so this is not the final vote. This has to go before the full council.
And it's only advisory too, even if we have something before us and alternatives voted no, it would still go to the council. It's not like in the federal.
Consensus.
We don't have the end all to it tonight, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I will call,
The question is how to write the resolution.
well, it's just,
Well, the current resolution is simply to repeal resolution 141. So what we could do would be to say, revise it to say, repeal the third paragraph.
Is that what
Do
Resolution.
you have the original resolution 2004, 2022?
I don't have that before.
2,200.
204?
I have it on my email.
Okay.
Section 3 is.
The last,
Oh.
yeah, section, the last, no, it's section 1. The last sentence.
Searching here. All right, so to amend the resolution,
So to amend resolution 2004, 2022.
to remove.
To remove the last sentence of section 1, and then, which, maybe you could say,
That reads.
that reads,
X, Y, Z.
you want to move?
I do, I'm just writing, so I'll remember
Do
what
you
to
need one,
say.
or?
Yeah, I do. I'm writing it too, I have to write it over.
I'll sign it anyway.
Why don't I just do this?
If you want. That's what they do. You got to put that.
So you see the dance phrase.
I'm gonna
Okay,
do.
Paul Brother, go back to my seat. Cover.
So resolution.
Of the county council to amend resolution 214, 2022.
Section 1,
Section 1,
I had it written down. Section 1, to remove the last sentence of section 1, which reads,
so I would write to amend resolution 2000, so I would just change this to amend. To amend resolution 204 of 2022 to remove last sentence of section 1, which, yeah,
reads.
you got it.
Okay. Last section needs very specific.
This is just trade specific, so we're keeping
Anybody can do it,
30%
I'm sure.
evaluation.
Or anybody doing trade. Okay. All right, so resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston to amend Resolution 204 of 2022 by removing the last sentence of Section 1, which reads, in addition, each trade-specific apprenticeship program must provide documentation verifying a minimum of 3 trade-specific graduates per calendar year for the last 5 years.
Are we making a motion that we do this?
Yes.
One of us has to make.
Well, Rita could, right?
Rita could.
That was asking leadership.
Technically, she could, we really don't have the.
I usually don't, but
One second, right?
You can, I thought it was usually the requirement. But if it's okay.
Yeah, that actually is okay for you, Chair, to make a motion.
Motion away.
all right. I will make a motion to amend resolution, do I need to read this again?
No.
Motion on the floor.
To adopt the resolution.
Yes, to adopt the resolution. Read it, make a resolution. Can I have a second?
Say that once more.
She needs a
Second.
second.
Thank you very much. All right, all in favor?
Right, so you usually second so fast.
Any opposers? Okay, so moved.
I'm gonna you guys just keep this. Let me know when you want it back.
Keep what?
Keep us in tune with.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, for 1 week.
I'll finish writing it out in a minute. Thank you, Val.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
They need, I think they log in using the signature.
All right, so that was the last item on our agenda. So we don't have anything else. I want a motion, motion to adjourn the meeting.
I did send you all, parking course, not parking task force.
Yeah.
I sent you an email. Yeah, if you could get that done by Sunday, I mean, if you really can't get it done, just let me know.
I can get it done, I have to remember to do it, so you can always.
I can do that, I'm good at that.
Nag it.
I'm really good at nagging.
I've heard that, I've heard that.
At the husband. I know, right?
Right. That is-
Not usually.
Okay.
Thank you, Helen.
We've been here past midnight.
That's what Freddie cares.
So we are adjourned, is that
We are.
correct?
We're adjourned.
We are. Bob and Sarah, we're done. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's the next one.
Thank you, thank you. I do want. Now, which street are you in? Oh, okay, okay. Todd, did you replace Todd? Todd, yeah, okay. Okay, good guy. Yeah, okay, good.
All right.
Right, yeah, yeah, absolutely. And like I said, no,
Thanks for
all the
coming.
time. And I am too, and I think so.
Yeah, so 2 weeks.
But I gotta. You know what, I will, I'll shoot you an email, is that good?
Me too, I would say.
Thank you.
That's
It
it.
was nice to meet you, I appreciate you coming over.
You too.
State pressure, you go to state pressure council meetings?
Oh, let me turn this off. Thanks, Elisa, we're done.
Who is state pressure?